Hey guys, this is Phil, and it is next week now on Mondays at Ambiguity. It's nice to see you guys again. Alright, so this week's topic is drag culture and my opinions on it, experience in it, and I guess we're just going to talk about it. So, surprisingly, it's actually really hard to find information on history of drag culture on Google. I did Google for about 2 hours and I found no really credible sources, just a lot of magazines, not really good sources, and then so I decided to go on my college's database for library resources, and that was actually pretty hard to find any history whatsoever on drag culture, so yeah, that was annoying. So I did go to Bing by accident, and I found this. It is this article on a magazine called TQS Magazine, and I guess they deal with things like film, fashion, music, TV, theater arts, and I guess there's a section that says London on it. So I went to go look at this, and it's called The Brief History of Drag, Part 1. And so it seems appealing, you're interested, and so I thought maybe this would be a good source to show for you guys, but actually it's a very bad source. So his first sentence is, "Here at the queer sphere, we are interested in all aspects of gay culture." So he goes on to talk about how they're interested in gay culture and they want to talk about drag. So let's hand it over to Martin. So this is Martin speaking now. So he starts talking about drag queens as men who are usually gay, in parentheses. And he continues to make the comparison that drag should not be confused with transvestism. So at that point I was like, what the fuck? Who uses transvestism? That's a very outdated word. And so, which is very similar in the sense that it involves cross-dressing and switching gender roles. So, okay, that is not completely accurate, but at least he's skimming over something. So, he goes on to say that drag is not the same as transvestites, because transvestites do not cross-dress to be seen as drag queens are, but to feel as women. Again, that's not accurate, but it's not wrong at the same time. So transvestism can also be a sexual fetish. So at that point I was like, okay, no, this is not okay. So they say that drag rarely is a fetish, and however some men and women would like to sleep with drag queens. I don't know why he added that part. That was not even related to anything in the top of the paragraph. So at that point I read the whole article, and it was very, very bad. He did not understand what drag culture was. He kind of had this botched idea, and so I was actually reading this with my sister Pearl, who's here. And so she's actually
Okay.
So she actually pointed out that where he was getting his source, what it sounded like was this article, which was actually very good. It's a book called a GLBT Encyclopedia, The Queer Encyclopedia of Music, Dance, and Musical Theater by Claude J. Summers. So this was a pretty good read. We only read a little bit of it, but it was it talks about a very thorough history of cross-dressing and even people who took on female identities, being religious leaders, stuff like that. And so she pointed out that this was actually, it sounded a lot like a botched version of that queer encyclopedia. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly true, because he starts talking about the Chinese theater, he was talking about the 1800s and the 20th century. So it really was a botched version of this drag queen culture brief history. So don't read it. I feel like this magazine gets a lot of views maybe from people who don't really understand the LGBT culture, I don't know. But, I did read the comments. Some people commented correcting them, saying that he had no idea what he was talking about. I, did leave a comment saying that no one uses the word transvestite anymore. If they do, they're reclaiming it, and that's their personal choice, but no one uses that in terms of trans people. Especially not in comparison of trans women and drag queens. Which leads us to our topic. So that was just my brief overview of my history.
Very brief.
Now we're going to talk about my whole experience with it. So where I live in Florida, we're very close to Orlando. And as everyone knows, Orlando is very, very busy with the drag scene. So it's very cool. We go to clubs in Orlando and we see all these wonderful drag queens and performers and people who are just having an amazing time expressing themselves artistically this way. It's so fun, honestly. So my experience with it as a theater kid, drag was a safe haven for me as a trans person. So I would go into this theater persona and I would take on male roles, and it was really comfortable for me, and I really felt like a sense of freedom on the stage. So for me, that was a really cool experience with drag. In my terms, as a drag king, I never performed as a drag king or anything like that, but it was like a really good way to feel comfortable in that expression. So for me, that was a really great place for me, and I have some amazing memories. I'll put some pictures up of my really funny characters that I would play. I did play this really, really drunk tour manager, which is funny because now I'm a tour guide at the zoo, but I was a tour manager at the circus, and I was always drunk and always really fucking pissed off, and it was awesome. Anyway, so now with my girlfriend and I and our friends, we always go to Orlando and we have a great time. I have some really good friends who do drag as a performance for money. It's really cool. They make a lot of money with it. They're great singers. So fun. So I love that place. It's a very comfortable place for me. It's a very welcoming community. Pretty much everyone is welcomed as long as you're not going to be nasty and derogatory or lewd. No one's gonna have a problem with you, even if you are lewd. Some people love all that shit. So, for me, it's a really cool place, and I am really excited about it. Just for your information, this encyclopedia, a GLBTQ encyclopedia of the Queer Encyclopedia of Music, Dance, Musical Theater by Claude J. Summers. That's a really great read. They do go into the actual history of like cross-dressing drag shows. The actual specific article that I'm talking about is drag shows, drag queens, and female impersonators. And they go on talking about Native American cultures and how they were respected as prophets because they could view the perspective of female and male identities and emotions. So it's a really good read if you're interested in it. I'm sure some of the other guys are going to go way into like the history of it, and I do encourage you guys to talk about it. For me, I do encourage you to actually go in and see it for yourself, make your own opinions, because it's some cool stuff, dudes. Very cool stuff. So there is a resource for you, and a hint, try Bing instead of Google. Like, I'm not sponsored by them, but I did search for about 2 hours on Google, and I could not find anything but like really kind of for fun articles, not really like educational. And this encyclopedia, I got it for free through my kind of accounts, but I don't really know what the deal is with everyone else. So check it out, it's kind of cool if you can find it in the library. It's a good read. Also, keep questioning, you know? People are going to read this TQS magazine and they're going to think that this is their only source. And, you know, you should always look and check other sources and see if what you're reading is maybe not correct. So, in this case, very not correct. So, keep questioning, my friends. I'll see you guys next week. Adios.